I am your father. Really? Dad? No, your parents are dead. Oh, hi there. I was doing important fantasy research. Don't tell Joe Bryant. Let's talk about 3 upside players.
Perfect.
All right, let's talk about my first player that I think has some crazy high upside in 2022, and that guy is Mike Williams, the wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. He's currently being drafted as the wide receiver 15 in redraft and the wide receiver 26 in Dynasty. Mind you, in redraft, he's going behind his teammate Keenan Allen, who's not really much of an upside guy, but he's got a nice, safe floor. Now, the thing is, Mike Williams was off to a crazy start last year. Weeks 1 through 5, he was the wide receiver 1 in half PPR. Now, I know that's a small sample size, but even when you change the format, too, he was a wide receiver 2 right behind Cooper Kupp in PPR format. This year, I expect things to get better in Los Angeles. Justin Herbert is my candidate to win MVP. The offensive line has gotten better. They added more weapons around, but Mike Williams still remains the top guy. So much of his scoring and his fantasy value has been predicated on touchdowns and deep targets. So last year, Mike Williams was 6th in end zone targets with 16. However, he only caught 5 of those and turned them into touchdowns. That's just 31%. So his touchdowns can get more efficient. He's a guy that still has a very high ceiling despite what we saw last year. Now, the volume game is something that he's never really been known for, but his 8 targets per game last year was pretty good. He had a 20.8 target share, so roughly around 21%. That was 13th overall in targets. Good, and it can get even better. That's the exciting thing about Mike Williams, is that everything we've seen is good, and it can get that much better. That's what we're looking for when we're looking for high upside guys. So there's still room to grow in the volume aspect. But then when we talk about that pendulum kind of swinging for the Los Angeles Chargers, Keenan Allen used to be the guy, and kind of is to an extent, that he can be that safety blanket for Justin Herbert. But if the Chargers are looking to make that next step, they've got to get some more explosive plays in order to make the playoffs and handle that AFC West. Mike Williams becomes the guy who's going to be taking over that wide receiver 1 role, kind of, sort of. You take a look at what they did last year. Targets per route run are actually a very important metric. Not too many people take a look at, but it gives us more context to our data. Okay, Keenan Allen last year, on his target per route run rate, he was at 25%. That's the lowest for his career. Mike Williams, target per route run rate, 21%. That's fun to say 5 times fast. Target per route run rate, target per route run rate, I can't do it. Anyways, Mike Williams, 21%. That was actually highest in his career, and he's still behind Keenan Allen. So all this tells me is that despite the career year for Mike Williams, the arrow can still point up, and so I'm really excited about his upside in 2022. Now, my next player is going to be Justin Fields, the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Now, in redraft, he's currently the quarterback 17. And it's hard for quarterbacks to make that jump, to go from average or even above average to great or elite. It takes someone with an elite skill set or some incredible athleticism. We all know athletic QBs do really well in fantasy, and that's why people love Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance, for all of that ability that they have running the football. Well, guess what? Justin Fields has that same ability. All right, the Bears underused Justin Fields' athletic ability horribly last year. In a small sample size, but over his final 5 starts, Fields led the NFL in passer rating when throwing from outside the pocket. He also led the NFL in passer rating on designed rollout plays. The problem was the Bears just didn't really do it all that much. They only rolled Justin Fields outside of the pocket 19 times last season. That is not good usage. So what we're looking for here is a change in the offensive system. New offensive coordinator Luke Getsy and new head coach Matt Eberflus want to use Justin Fields in ways that are going to be conducive to the quarterback developing and using his best skill set. Luke Getsy has already said he wants to roll Fields out of the pocket, use that athleticism, cut the field down, and make defenses nervous. Eberflus has already talked about how Justin Fields has this incredibly strong arm and they want to take deep shots. They know this is the way to stay in games. Now, the big question about Justin Fields and the Bears is just how good are they actually going to be? Everyone's really worried about the Bears, and can Fields be fantasy relevant if the Bears are bad? The answer is yes. We've seen this actually happen before with quarterbacks with a similar skill set. Let's go back to 2020, where the Texans were 4-12, yet Deshaun Watson was the quarterback 5 in fantasy. Go back to 2019, the Cardinals were 5-10. Kyler Murray was the quarterback 7. The commonality here is rushing quarterbacks on bad teams that can throw the ball deep, and they know they have to make plays to keep their teams in it. Justin Fields has some crazy high upside this year because of his rushing ability, because of his deep ball, and because the Bears simply are just going to have to throw a lot, especially if they're back behind in games. It's the only way they're going to remain competitive, and the draft cost for Justin Fields, or even trade cost for Justin Fields, is not all that high in your fantasy leagues. I love Justin Fields going into 2022. All right, my third and final player I'm going to talk about here is Jameson Williams. And yeah, I know. There's going to be a lot of unpacking to do here, right? In redraft, he's got an average draft position of wide receiver 75. Dynasty, it's still pretty low despite being a rookie at the wide receiver 35. The whole thing is that he's coming off of this knee surgery, and people are worried, what is Jameson Williams going to be? What are the Lions going to be? And I'm not saying it's very, very likely to happen or even totally plausible, but when it comes to fantasy football, we have to be open to these possibilities that can happen. There's a lot of outcomes, and when the cost associated with that per se risk, or whatever you want to call it, is so low, we have to really examine this. Now, we've actually seen some outliers where rookie wide receivers can come into the league and be productive with, let's call them mid-level quarterbacks to good quarterbacks. I'm going to hurt some people here when I say this, but Odell Beckham in 2014, he didn't play a full season. I believe he played like 12 games. And he did it with Eli Manning. Now, it wasn't Eli Manning at his absolute best. It wasn't even Super Bowl Eli Manning, okay? This was Odell Beckham going out and having a fantastic season despite coming back from injury and doing it as a rookie. We also saw it last year with Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa, who still hasn't quite made that jump. The Miami Dolphins offense was not very good, and Jalen Waddle got targeted. This was a guy who was seen as solely as a deep threat and a speed guy and all that stuff coming out of Alabama, just like Jameson Williams. Now, we take Jameson Williams and we put him in a very similar situation. He's likely not going to play for the first 6, maybe even 7 weeks. And the cost of getting Williams on your roster is incredibly low. Now, the thing here is that in redraft, he's probably not even going to get drafted. If he does, someone's going to take him late. And then you know what they're going to do? They're either going to put him on their IR and stash him for a while, or they're going to get nervous and start to go for those waiver wire pickups early in the season and drop Jameson Williams. That's when you can swoop in and get ready, because Jameson Williams should pop off when he comes back. Everything from the medical side seems to check out. He should be fine. And you're probably not going to see Jameson out into that field until maybe week 7 after their bye, or week 9 when the Lions start division play against the Green Bay Packers. That seems like a great time to deploy a brand new weapon like Jameson Williams. Now, you saw in college, he had incredible production. You're talking about a guy that was 5th in receiving yards, 3rd in receiving touchdowns, and he averaged nearly 20 yards per reception. On top of that, we know the explosive plays are there because he led the SEC in touchdowns of 20 yards or more since 2020. By the way, he only played in the SEC in 2021. He literally lapped all these other great players in the nation's best college football conference. It's incredible. He is a big play waiting to happen. And now, the really only question that we have is, what's the usage going to be like on the Detroit Lions? Well, there's not really a lot of guys that have his same skill set on the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown and TJ Hawkinson are going to be guys that can be used in the middle and used underneath. DeAndre Swift, yes, he's a receiving back, but you're not sending him deep on things and not necessarily going to be doing a whole lot of out wide screens. The cool thing here is that the Lions actually get the opportunity to use a lot of these same concepts with a guy like DJ Chark. They can get him on screens, they can send him deep, and these are the things that Jameson Williams excels at. So he gets to watch these things happen. The Lions get to try it out. The thing is that DJ Chark has never really been that truly successful breakout wide receiver for fantasy. He's never played a full season. He's never had a catch rate over 60%. And Jameson Williams is coming in with high draft capital and high expectations. Expect that if the Lions are anywhere near contention, they're going to want to use Jameson Williams, and they're going to want to use him a lot to create some high upside plays in 2022. For more content like this, go check out footballguys.com. You can see all of our articles, all of our weekly videos, and you can even join the Discord. Just check the link in the description down below.